everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. We like to go deep on this show, and today we're diving deep into the world of viruses,
Oh, yeah.
but not the kind that have you grabbing for the tissues.
Right.
We're going way beyond the common cold today. We're exploring a fascinating research paper all about astrovirology.
Astrovirology.
You heard that right. That's the study of viruses, but in the context of astrobiology. Basically, looking at viruses from a cosmic perspective.
Yeah, it's super interesting because, we tend to think of viruses as these little villains, causing illness.
Yeah, the bad guys, right?
But the reality is way more nuanced than that. I mean, they exist everywhere you can imagine and play a vital role in how life on Earth functions and evolves.
Okay, so I was blown away by this fact. There are more viruses in the ocean than there are stars in the observable universe. Did you know that?
It's mind-boggling, isn't it?
I mean, that's an insane number. It's something like 10 to the power of 31 variants. That's a 1 with 31 zeros after it, just in the oceans.
Yeah, and just to put that in perspective, that's 10 times more than all the cellular life forms in the oceans.
It's hard to even wrap your head around a number that big. So, I mean, that incredible abundance, really highlights how fundamental viruses are to our biosphere, right?
Absolutely. They're constantly interacting with all other life forms,
Mm-hmm.
shaping ecosystems and even driving evolutionary change.
Okay, but before we dive too deep, into all of that, we have to address this age-old question. Are viruses even alive?
Right.
I mean, they seem to occupy this strange gray area, between living and non-living things. It's like, where do they fit in?
Yeah, that's a question that has puzzled scientists for ages. They don't really fit neatly into our traditional definition of life,
Right.
because they can't reproduce on their own. They rely on a host cell,
Right.
and they hijack its machinery, basically, to make copies of themselves.
Okay, so they need that host to actually, do their thing.
Exactly. But when you look at the entire viral replication cycle, from a variant attaching to a host cell to the creation of those new variants, and they burst out, it starts to resemble what we think of as life. You know what I mean?
Okay, so it's not as simple as just looking at, a single variant and deciding right then and there. It's like the whole life cycle.
Exactly. A variant is one stage in the whole process.
Yeah.
Thinking a variant represents the entirety of a virus is like saying an acorn is an oak tree.
Right.
It's only one stage.
Okay, so virus actually refers to that whole replication cycle.
The whole thing.
All right. So let's break down how this viral replication works. Like what's actually happening at each stage.
Okay, well, in the simplest terms, you have a virus, and it latches onto a host cell and injects its genetic material, which can be either DNA or RNA.
Okay.
And then it uses the host cell's resources to create copies of itself. And those new variants assemble inside the host.
Okay.
They burst out. Often that destroys the host cell.
Oh, wow.
And those new variants go on to infect more cells.
And this is happening constantly all over the planet, right?
Absolutely, on a massive scale.
Okay, but here's where things get interesting, right? Viruses aren't just agents of destruction. They actually play a pretty important role in maintaining the balance of our ecosystems.
That's a key point. They get a bad rap, but they're really essential.
Hold on. So beyond all the, bad news headlines, viruses are actually doing some good in the world.
Oh, yeah, a lot of good, actually. One of the key roles they play is in something called biogeochemical cycling.
Okay, now that's a mouthful.
Yeah.
It is.
Break that down for me.
Okay, so basically, you can think of viruses as microscopic recyclers. They make sure essential nutrients keep flowing through ecosystems.
Interesting. Okay, I'm all ears.
So let's take the oceans as an example.
Okay.
You know when viruses infect and kill bacteria?
Right.
All of that bacteria's cellular contents get released back into the water.
Oh.
And those nutrients then become available for other organisms, fueling the whole food web. It's called the viral shunt. So it's like without viruses, these essential building blocks wouldn't be recycled as effectively.
Precisely. It's like a natural composting system, but on a microscopic level.
Oh, wow. I like that. That's a good analogy.
Yeah, and this isn't just limited to the oceans. I mean, viruses are involved in nutrient cycling in all sorts of environments, soil, fresh water, even the atmosphere.
Wow, that's really making me rethink my whole perception of viruses here.
I told you.
Yeah, and the research paper mentioned that they're also major drivers of evolution, right?
Yeah, that's another crucial point. I mean, viruses, they're constantly evolving,
Yeah.
And that forces other organisms to evolve in response if they want to survive.
Right, they got to keep up.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a constant arms race between viruses and their hosts.
So they're pushing each other to constantly adapt and change.
Exactly. It's this constant pressure that pushes evolution forward.
That's so cool. And there's another way that viruses contribute to evolution, right?
Yeah.
It's, what was it called?
Horizontal gene transfer.
Yes, horizontal gene transfer. What is that exactly?
Well, basically, it's the movement of genes between organisms that aren't directly related.
So it's not just like parent to offspring. Genes can actually jump between totally different species.
That's right.
How does that even work?
Well, viruses, they act like genetic couriers. So they pick up bits of DNA from one organism and deliver it to another during infection.
Oh, wow.
And this can lead to the development of new traits and adaptations.
So they're like little genetic delivery trucks.
Exactly.
Wow. So some scientists believe that horizontal gene transfer played a role in some of the biggest evolutionary leaps in history.
Dude, it's a pretty big idea.
Yeah, like the origin of DNA itself,
Right.
the development of the three domains of life, even the formation of the eukaryotic nucleus.
It's mind-blowing, really.
Wait, are you saying that viruses might have helped create the nucleus?
It's a compelling theory.
A very heart of our cells.
It is a pretty wild idea.
Yeah.
It suggests that an ancient virus, maybe similar to the giant virus, could have infected a cell, and its genetic material got integrated into the host's genome. And then over time, that could have led to the development of the nucleus as we know it.
That is a lot to take in. And it makes you realize how much we still don't know about the role of viruses in shaping life as we know it.
Oh, absolutely. We're just scratching the surface.
Speaking of the virus, that brings us to another pretty mind-boggling aspect of viruses, the existence of these giant viruses.
The giant viruses.
Yeah, that challenge our very definition of what a virus is.
Right. These things are incredible.
I remember reading about those. They're absolutely massive, right? Like almost the size of some bacteria.
Yeah, that's right. Some are truly enormous. Take the Pandora virus, for example. Its virion measures a full micrometer across. That's huge in the viral world.
A full micrometer.
Yeah, and it's not just their size. Their genomes are incredibly complex, too. I mean, they contain hundreds, even thousands of genes.
Thousands.
And some of those genes are actually involved in functions that we typically associate with cellular life, not viruses.
Whoa, so they're blurring the lines
Totally.
between the viral and bacterial world.
In a way, yes. They challenge our traditional classifications and make us rethink our whole understanding of what a virus even is.
Okay, and to make things even more fascinating, some giant viruses even have their own viruses called virophages.
A virus inside a virus.
Whoa, that's wild. It's like a Russian nesting doll of viruses.
Exactly.
Every time we think we understand viruses, we discover something that just turns our understanding on its head.
It's true. That's the beauty of science. Always more to discover and learn.
Speaking of expanding our understanding of viruses, we can't ignore the incredible potential of astrovirology.
Astrovirology.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
All right, so searching for viruses on other planets and moons, I mean, it sounds like something straight out of science fiction, right?
It does.
But after everything we've talked about, it actually makes perfect sense. If viruses are so integral to life on Earth, it stands to reason that they could exist elsewhere in the universe.
Exactly. That's the core idea driving astrovirology.
Yeah.
And it's not just about, finding viruses for the sake of it.
Yeah.
Discovering them on other worlds could actually be indirect evidence of cellular life, even if we haven't found the host organisms themselves.
Okay, yeah, that's a really cool way to think about it. So finding a virus would strongly suggest there's something for that virus to infect,
Right.
even if we haven't, directly found it yet. But where do we even begin to look for viruses in the vastness of space?
Well, some places are more promising than others. Scientists are particularly interested in those icy moons like Europa and Enceladus.
Oh, yeah.
They have these subsurface oceans that could potentially harbor life and, by extension, viruses.
I remember reading about those moons. They have those massive plumes of water vapor spewing out into space.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
scientists believe that those plumes could contain material from those subsurface oceans.
Really?
So that means we might be able to detect signs of life, including viruses, without actually having to land on the surface.
That would be incredible. To find evidence of viruses in those plumes, I mean, that would be a huge leap forward in our understanding of life beyond Earth.
It would be groundbreaking for sure. There have already been missions, to study those plumes in more detail, like the Tempopo mission.
I've heard of that one.
Yeah, it was conducted on the International Space Station, and they exposed terrestrial microorganisms to the harsh conditions of space and collected samples of space dust.
Really?
Yeah, the goal was to see if microbes could survive, interplanetary travel.
So we're already testing the water, so to speak,
We are.
to see if life and perhaps viruses could actually survive a trip through space.
That's right. Now, the Tempopo mission, it didn't specifically look for viruses, but it really paved the way for future missions that could target, we call viral biosignatures in space.
Okay, so that brings up an interesting question. How do we even know what to look for?
Right.
What are the telltale signs of a virus, especially in an alien environment?
That's a huge challenge in astrovirology, finding those reliable viral biosignatures. You see, we don't have a single definitive marker that screams virus.
Right. It's not like finding a strand of DNA and declaring victory.
No, it's way more complex than that.
So what are some of the things that scientists are considering?
Well, one approach is to search for specific viral proteins or nucleic acid sequences that are unique to viruses and not found in cellular life.
Okay.
Another is to actually look for the structural patterns of virions themselves, those geometric shapes we talked about earlier.
But earlier you mentioned those require really powerful microscopes to see, and that's not really practical for space exploration, is it?
Yeah, true. Traditional microscopy isn't really feasible for those kinds of missions. But there are some new technologies that are emerging that might be adaptable.
Oh, interesting.
One promising technique is nanopore sequencing.
Okay.
It works by threading a DNA or RNA strand through a tiny pore and measuring the changes in electrical current as the molecule passes through.
Wow.
And this allows us to determine the sequence of the molecule and potentially identify viral signatures.
So theoretically, we could use nanopore technology to analyze samples from those plumes on Europa or Enceladus and search for viral sequences.
Exactly. It's a fascinating possibility. And there are other emerging techniques like laser-induced fluorescence and ultrasensitive mass spectrometry that could also help us detect, viral signatures in these extraterrestrial environments.
Wow. It sounds like the hunt for viruses beyond Earth is pushing the boundaries of technology in some really exciting ways.
Absolutely. And it's not just about the technology itself. We also need to broaden our understanding of viral diversity here on Earth.
Right.
So we know what to look for elsewhere. The more we learn about viruses in our own backyard, the better equipped we'll be to search for them in the cosmos.
That makes a lot of sense. We can't assume that extraterrestrial viruses will look and act exactly like the ones we know on Earth.
Precisely. There could be an entire universe of viral diversity out there beyond anything we can currently imagine.
That's pretty exciting.
And that's what makes this field so captivating. We're on the verge of uncovering a whole new realm of virology, one that could fundamentally change our understanding of life itself. But what do you say we shift gears for a moment and delve into another intriguing aspect of viruses?
Okay, I'm all for it. Let's do it. Okay, I'm all for it. Let's do it.
All right, so we've been talking about, the vastness of the viral world and all this diversity.
Yeah.
And there's this really interesting concept that I wanted to touch on. It's the idea of virus genomes as this biological dark matter.
Yeah, that was a fascinating idea. Can you explain what that means?
Well, it's kind of like when we sequence viral genomes, right?
Okay.
We find that a huge portion of their genes have no known function.
Really?
Yeah, we call it biological dark matter because it's kind of like gazing into the night sky.
Oh, okay.
You see all those stars, but, there's even more matter out there that we can't see.
So it's not that these genes are doing nothing. We just haven't figured out what they're doing yet.
Exactly. There's a whole universe of information hidden within these viral genomes,
Wow.
just waiting to be unlocked.
So what are some of the approaches that scientists are using to try to, unravel the mysteries of this viral dark matter?
Well, one really interesting avenue is studying CRISPR systems.
CRISPR.
Yeah, in bacteria and archaea.
Okay, I've heard of CRISPR.
Yeah, so you could think of CRISPR as a sort of bacterial immune system
Oh, interesting.
that remembers past viral encounters.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's like a genetic history book,
So it's keeping track.
keeping track, containing all these snippets of past infections.
So by studying CRISPR, scientists can actually learn about the history of viral interactions.
Exactly.
Yeah, maybe even piece together the evolution of ancient viruses.
That's the idea.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's a remarkable tool. It offers us a glimpse into these ancient battles between viruses and their hosts. And who knows what other secrets might be hidden, within this viral dark matter. It could hold clues to the origin of viruses, their role in the development of life, and their potential, existence beyond Earth.
Well, I don't know about you, but I'm feeling a renewed sense of awe for these tiny but mighty entities.
Me too.
I mean, we started this deep dive thinking about viruses as just, causes of disease.
Right.
But there's so much more than that.
They really are. They're essential parts of our world and potentially other worlds as well.
Right.
They're architects of ecosystems, drivers of evolution, and perhaps even key players in the very origins of life itself.
It's a truly humbling thought, and it makes you wonder, If we were to find viruses on other planets or moons,
Mhm.
what would that tell us about the nature of life itself?
That's a question that sends shivers down my spine.
Right.
I mean, would these extraterrestrial viruses resemble the ones that we know here on Earth,
Yeah.
with their elegant structures and these diverse genomes, or would they be something completely different,
Yeah.
pushing the boundaries of our current understanding of what a virus even is?
It's like asking, if we find life on other planets, will it be based on DNA like us?
Exactly.
Or will it be something completely alien
Yeah.
to our current knowledge?
The discovery of extraterrestrial viruses. I mean, it wouldn't just expand our knowledge of viral diversity. It would force us to reevaluate, our very definitions of life and the possibilities for its existence throughout the universe.
As we're wrapping up this deep dive, I think the key takeaway here is that viruses are far more than just bad news wrapped up in a protein coat.
I agree.
They're integral parts of the web of
If
life,
they are.
and their story is deeply intertwined with our own.
It's a story full of mystery and complexity and endless potential for discovery.
Absolutely.
So I encourage all of our listeners to keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep an eye on this ever-evolving world of viruses.
Yeah.
These tiny giants that might just hold the keys to unlocking some of the universe's greatest secrets. All right, so we've been talking about, the vastness of the viral world and all this diversity.
Yeah, and their impact on evolution, we talked about that. It's pretty amazing.
There's this really interesting concept that I wanted to touch on. It's the idea of virus genomes as this biological dark matter.
Yeah, that was a fascinating idea. Can you explain what that means for our listeners?
Well, it's kind of like when we sequence viral genomes, right?
Yeah.
We find that a huge portion of their genes have no known function. It's like, what are they doing?
Really?
We call it biological dark matter because it's kind of like gazing into the night sky.
Oh, okay.
You see all those stars, but, there's even more matter out there that we can't see. It's hiding.
So it's not that these genes are doing nothing, we just haven't figured out what they're doing yet.
Exactly. There's a whole universe of information hidden within these viral genomes just waiting to be unlocked.
Wow, so what are some of the approaches that scientists are using to try to, unravel the mysteries of this viral dark matter?
One really interesting avenue is studying CRISPR systems.
CRISPR.
Yeah, in bacteria and archaea.
Okay, I've heard of CRISPR. What is it exactly?
So you can think of CRISPR as a sort of bacterial immune system that remembers past viral encounters.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
Like a genetic history book containing all these snippets of past infections.
So by studying CRISPR, scientists can actually learn about the history of viral interactions and maybe even piece together the evolution of ancient viruses.
Exactly. That's the idea.
That's incredible.
It's a remarkable tool. It offers us a glimpse into these ancient battles between viruses and their hosts. And who knows what other secrets might be hidden within this viral dark matter.
Right.
It could hold clues to the origin of viruses, their role in the development of life, and their potential existence beyond Earth.
It really makes you think
It does.
about all the possibilities.
It does.
Well, I don't know about you, but I'm feeling a renewed sense of awe for these tiny but mighty entities. I mean, we started this deep dive thinking about viruses as just, causes of disease.
Right, as the bad guys.
Yeah, the bad guys.
Yeah.
But there's so much more than that.
They really are. They're essential parts of our world and potentially other worlds as well. They're architects of ecosystems, drivers of evolution, and perhaps even key players in the very origins of life itself.
Wow, it's a truly humbling thought. And it makes you wonder, if we were to find viruses on other planets or moons, what would that tell us about the nature of life itself?
Oh, that's a question that sends shivers down my spine.
Yeah.
Would these extraterrestrial viruses resemble the ones that we know here on Earth with their elegant structures and diverse genomes? Or would they be something completely different, pushing the boundaries of our current understanding of what a virus even is?
Right. It's a huge question, isn't it?
It is. Like, if we find life on other planets, will it be based on DNA like us, or will it be something completely alien to our current knowledge?
Yeah, it really makes you think about all the possibilities out there.
Absolutely. The discovery of extraterrestrial viruses, I mean, it wouldn't just expand our knowledge of viral diversity, it would force us to reevaluate our very definitions of life and the possibilities for its existence throughout the universe. So much to explore.
So much to explore. As we're wrapping up this deep dive, I think the key takeaway here is that viruses are far more than just bad news wrapped up in a protein coat.
Could have said it better myself.
They're integral parts of the web of life, and their story is deeply intertwined with our own.
It's a story full of mystery and complexity and endless potential for discovery. So I encourage all of our listeners to keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep an eye on this ever-evolving world of viruses. These tiny giants that might just hold the keys to unlocking some of the universe's greatest secrets.
That's it for this deep dive into the world of viruses. See you next time.